How's it going, guys? My name is Davi and welcome to my channel. In last week's episode we worked on that tailgate, getting all the dents fixed and getting it ready for paint. Today we'll be fixing up the front bumper as well, getting the tailgate and the bumper ready for primer, and then finally painting them. So stay tuned. Like with any body work, we need to start preparing this bumper for filler. So first we need to sand the bumper so we can see where we need to do some repairs. And yes, this type of repair work consists of a lot of sanding, but it's one of the most crucial steps. If your prep work is substandard, then your paint job is going to end up looking substandard as well. As you can see, most of the paint has been removed and this thing was a mess. But also tell me, when was the last time that you actually saw a proper steel bumper on a vehicle? This was a lot of sanding, many sheets of sandpaper. But now we are ready to start working on spots like this. This was quite a big bump, managed to knock it out from the back, and now we'll just use some putty to make it nice and smooth so that we can paint the primer on this thing. There's another mark that we'll do some putty work on, and then hopefully this afternoon we can prime this thing and get it ready for paint. Okay, so anytime you want to apply something to a panel like this, you first want to clean it. You want to give the putty or the paint or whatever you are using and applying to this panel the best chance of sticking. Now dust can cause stuff to pull loose and make a big mess. I like to use rubbing alcohol to clean all the panels that I'm working on, just for the fact that it removes all the greases, all the fatty stuff from your oils and stuff from your hands. It just makes everything nice and clean, and it also evaporates very quickly, so it doesn't sit on the panel and cause it to rust or any nonsense like that. Now make sure to get the spots that you know you're going to apply body filler on especially clean. Now, like I've mentioned before, when you work with this putty, make sure not too much activator with your putty, because it will cause it to go dry and hard very quickly. A good rule of thumb is a golf ball size of putty and a pea size of hardener. Now when mixing your putty, you always want to just rub it down like this. Don't stir it to mix, because then you're introducing air bubbles into the stuff. And trust me, after doing putty work on a panel and you start sanding it and there's an air bubble in that thing, you just get it nice and smooth and there's a little hole because of air that was trapped in this thing, you're not going to be very happy with yourself. So just mix it thoroughly like this. As soon as you can't see any blue streaks in there anymore, then you know your putty is ready to use. There we go. So the first area I want to concentrate on is this piece that we fixed from behind, knocking out the dents. You try and get this stuff on as smooth as you can and as thin as you can. If you put too much putty, it's going to become quite a mission to get the stuff sanded nice and smooth, and it just makes the sanding process a lot longer and harder than it needs to be. So that's that spot. We might need to apply putty multiple times, but we'll see as soon as we sanded that down. Okay, the next low spot I've got is right there. Now remember guys, you need to work with this stuff as fast and as quick as possible, because it does tend to go down or go off quite quickly. So that spot is nicely covered. There's something that we can do over there. The idea is not to build a panel. It's basically just to get a light little coat on there so we can get this panel nice and straight by the time we get it sanded. Okay, so after hours and hours of sanding, I finally got this bumper into a state where we can start prepping it for paint. Now, it was quite a mission. I don't know what it was painted for, to cover up all the bumps and scratches and knocks and things. I think it might have been house paint, not sure. But it clogged up the sandpaper like you can't believe. It was a mess. But finally it's done. I had to switch off the camera because I started using very strong native Afrikaans words, just to get rid of some of my frustration. But it's looking good. And like always, cleaning with rubbing alcohol, so we've got a nice clean panel for the paint to bond to. We can now finally start with a primer. I'm using a high build primer. That basically means it's got a little bit of filler in there to help fill all the small scratches and imperfections. Unfortunately, my spray gun only has a 1.3mm tip, so I had to apply it a bit slower than the ideal speed, just because the stuff is so thick. Your first coat is always just a light coat just to get started. Your second and maybe even third coat will be a lot thicker and wetter. Unfortunately, I also only have a very small compressor, so I have to keep an eye on the air pressure going into the spray gun so we can get a nice even coat. Time for the second coat. And the third. So while I was busy painting these things, my dad quickly sanded down these rails that mount onto the load bin of the bakkie, and we quickly just sealed them up to prevent rust. Time to quickly rub down the tailgate with some rubbing alcohol so it's nice and clean so that we can paint. Time to start transforming this thing. Because of the high bulk primer we used, and the fact that my spray gun tip is actually a bit too small for primer, we got a slightly rough texture. Before spraying the final color, we need to sand down these rough spots so we can get a smooth finish. At least this sanding goes quite quick. I'm using a 600 grit wet and dry sandpaper here. Now let's give it a quick wipe down with a microfiber, and then once this panel is dry, you should be able to see if it's nice and smooth. Okay, now that the panel is all sanded, it's nice and uniform. There was a little scratch mark, but I managed to sand that out. That's what this high bulk primer is perfect for. And this thing is basically ready to be painted. Time to do the same with the front bumper. Here we go. The bumper and the tailgate ready for paint. Okay, let's start painting. Like I mentioned earlier, your first coat is just a light coat. Your second and third you can go a bit heavier with the paint, getting the panel nice and wet. When spraying, do a 50% overlap with each stroke to ensure nice and even cover. Time for the second coat. Something that is very important is to wear a proper mask when you're doing this type of painting. This 2K paint is full of nasty chemicals that you don't want to breathe in. And Now the third and final point. And there we go, guys. I don't think that came out too bad at all. Nice and shiny, nice and flat finish. Happy with that. Now let's quickly get on to this bumper and get it done. Again, just a light first coat. And then our final two coats. Okay, so that's it for today's episode. We finally got that tailgate and the bumper painted, and I think it came out quite good. So thanks for watching. Please like, subscribe, share, gooi comments, all those nice things. Have an awesome day, guys. Cheers.